Kane did not wake up that morning expecting to save a billionaire heir. In fact, the only thing he expected was that his cheap alarm clock would betray him again, and it did. The shrieking device died mid-ring, leaving Kane jolting awake 15 minutes late, throwing on mismatched socks, and sprinting out of his tiny apartment like a man escaping a crime scene. By the time he reached Mocha Universe Cafe, he already felt like a tired extra in his own life story. He didn't know the universe was about to flip the script. The night rush had ended hours ago, leaving Kane alone to wipe down tables and judge the crooked motivational posters his boss insisted on hanging up. Smile. Life is brewing something good. Sure. Probably a disaster. He checked the time, ready to close, when he noticed a tall, broad-shouldered man lingering outside the cafe window. Not in a creepy way, more like a lost puppy wearing a ridiculously expensive suit. Kane squinted. Who wears a silk suit at 11 p.m.? Rich people or villains? Sometimes both. The man kept glancing over his shoulder like someone was following him. Kane wouldn't have cared, until a black car slowly rolled up behind him, headlights dimmed, windows tinted too dark to be legal. Kane opened the door a crack. Hey, sir? You good? You look like you either need help or a map to Narnia. The stranger turned and, wow. Kane almost dropped his mop. He was stupidly handsome. Tousled blonde hair. Stormy blue eyes. Jawline sharp enough to cut through Kane's student debt. And he carried the chaotic energy of someone who'd never worked a day in his life. The man stuttered. I think someone's trying to kill me. Kane blinked. Okay, that's a new one. Usually people just ask for directions. Before Kane could process that, the car door cracked open, a figure leaned out, and something metallic glinted. Kane didn't think. He reacted. He grabbed the stranger by the wrist, yanked him inside the cafe, slammed the door shut, and yelled at the top of his lungs, "No murdering customers after hours. We're closed." The car screeched off, peeling tires echoing down the street. Silence. The stranger stared at Kane with an expression halfway between awe and disbelief. You saved me. Kane let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Dude, I just prevented paperwork. I'm allergic to anything involving police reports. The man laughed, soft, breathless, and annoyingly charming. I'm Rylan. Kane, he replied, grabbing his mop for emotional support. So, Rylan, why does it look like you're in a rejected drama scene? Rylan hesitated. It's complicated. Is it rich people complicated? Kane asked. Rylan looked guilty. Kane groaned. Oh God, it is. While Kane locked the cafe and tried to get rid of the adrenaline racing through his veins, Rylan followed him around like a golden retriever with abandonment issues. I really can't thank you enough, Rylan said. If you hadn't been here, you'd be a corpse, Kane finished. Yes, we're both aware. So, what kind of trouble are you in? Rylan opened his mouth, but Kane waved his hand. Actually, wait. I don't want to know. I'm a barista, not Batman. But Rylan kept staring at him like he was something miraculous. Like Kane had single-handedly saved the world instead of just dragging him into a coffee shop. It was unsettling. Nobody ever looked at Kane like that. Not his exes. Not his parents. Not even his goldfish when he used to have one. Finally, Kane gave in. Fine. Give me the short version. Rylan exhaled. I'm the heir to my family's company. There's pressure. Enemies. People who want me out of the picture. Kane rubbed his temples. Okay. So you're telling me I saved a billionaire from assassination? Great. Fantastic. This is exactly the level of stress my paycheck can't handle. But Rylan was smiling now, wide, grateful, bright. Okay. I think you're my lucky charm. Kane froze. Let's not call me that. It's true, Rylan insisted. Tonight could have gone terribly wrong. But then you appeared out of nowhere and saved me. I feel like fate brought me to you. Kane made a face. Fate? Fate doesn't wake up late and trip over garbage cans. Rylan stepped closer, eyes shining. So, I want to thank you properly. Please don't, Kane warned. Too late. The next morning, when Kane trudged into work half asleep, he opened the cafe door and nearly screamed. Because standing inside, blocking the counter, was Rylan. With 2 bodyguards. And a bouquet so ridiculously huge it could feed a family of giraffes. Kane. Rylan beamed. Good morning. I've decided something. Kane already knew he wouldn't like it. What? Rylan lifted the flowers like a proud toddler showing off a drawing. I'm not leaving your side until I repay you. From today on, I'm hiring you as my personal lucky charm. Kane stared at him. Then stared at the bodyguards. then stared at the bouquet. I quit, Kane whispered. You can't. Rylan smiled sweetly. I already paid your boss double your monthly salary to borrow you for a while. Kane dropped his apron. Oh hell no. But Rylan only stepped closer, eyes warm and determined. Kane, please. Let me stay close to you. And just like that, Kane's life changed forever. Kane had survived many things in life. Bad dates, burnt coffee beans, and his landlord's increasingly unhinged rent increases. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for being borrowed by a billionaire heir like he was a limited edition action figure. Rylan, Kane said slowly, rubbing the bridge of his nose as the two bodyguards silently observed like decorative statues. You can't just buy people. I didn't buy you, Rylan replied, smiling like sunshine wrapped in privilege. I temporarily compensated your employer for your time. That is literally the definition of buying. Borrowing, Rylan corrected. Borrowing is for books, not baristas. But Rylan only continued smiling, looking at Kane the way a child looks at a new toy, except with more awe and an emotional intensity Kane did not have the emotional bandwidth to process. I promise you won't regret this, Rylan said earnestly. Just give me a few days. You saved my life, Kane. Let me stay close. Kane opened his mouth to protest again, but his boss popped out from behind the counter like an excited meerkat. Kane. Isn't this wonderful? She squealed. You're going to be working for a billionaire heir. I'm so jealous I might cry. Ma'am, Kane whispered, he is kidnapping me politely. Politely is fine as long as you're getting paid, she whispered back. Traitor. 10 minutes later, Kane found himself pushed into the backseat of a luxury car so smooth it might have been made from the pressed tears of peasants. Rylan climbed in beside him, grinning as if this were some grand adventure. So, where are we going? Kane asked warily. Breakfast, Rylan said. I ate already. Not billionaire breakfast. Kane sighed. What exactly is billionaire breakfast? Rylan's eyes sparkled. Food that costs too much and comes in portions too small. Kane stared. Why would anyone? You'll see. He saw. They arrived at a hotel restaurant so fancy that Kane felt underdressed just breathing inside it. A waiter dressed like royalty placed a plate in front of him containing 3 strawberries, a slice of something suspiciously microscopic, and a leaf. A single lonely leaf. I can't eat this, Kane whispered. This is art. Tiny, edible art. I need real food. You get used to it, Rylan said, sipping his overpriced drink. Do you want anything else? Yes. A full chicken. Rylan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. We can order more. Kane watched him for a moment. Rylan looked relaxed, almost normal. Not like someone who'd been almost murdered last night. Rylan, Kane said quietly, are you always followed by terrifying cars and accidental tragedies? Rylan's smile faltered. Just slightly. There've been incidents. For months now. My father's company is preparing for a major transition. When people know you're inheriting billions, well, he shrugged lightly. Not everyone is happy about it. Kane swallowed. That wasn't just rich people drama. That was rich people danger. And you think I'm your lucky charm? Kane asked skeptically. Rylan met his eyes, gaze soft but serious. Kane, every time you've been around, even in the last 24 hours, things went right. You saved me last night. You kept me grounded this morning. And being beside you, he took a breath. It feels safe. Kane's heart did something stupid. Something warm. Something he refused to acknowledge. He coughed into his napkin. Well, that's sweet and all, but I'm not some magical talisman. I'm a guy who works in a cafe and has 2 cracked phone screens. Rylan smiled gently. Maybe that's why you're special. Kane's brain short-circuited. After breakfast, and after Kane forced Rylan to buy him a donut big enough to restore his dignity, Rylan insisted on driving him to his next duty. What duty? Kane asked, alarmed. Accompanying me today, Rylan said as if it were obvious. Meetings, appearances, errands. I want you nearby. Rylan, I'm not qualified for any of that. You don't need qualifications, Rylan said breezily. Just exist within a 10-foot radius of me. That sounds like emotional support pet behavior. Exactly. No. But it was too late. Kane had already been swept into Rylan's world like a feather in a hurricane. Their first stop was a meeting at a skyscraper so tall Kane got dizzy looking at it. The boardroom was filled with icy, polished executives. Kane felt like a stain on their expensive rug as he sat awkwardly beside Rylan. Halfway through the meeting, A chandelier bolt randomly loosened above Rylan's seat, causing the massive crystal ornament to sway ominously. Everyone gasped. Kane didn't think, again. He yanked Rylan's chair back just as a chunk of crystal shattered against the floor where Rylan's head had been seconds earlier. The room exploded into chaos. Executives screamed. Bodyguards swarmed. Rylan turned to Kane, eyes glowing with pure, awestruck panic. You saved me. Again. That wasn't saving, Kane snapped. That was reflexes. Also, why does death keep trying to speedrun your life? Rylan grabbed his hands. Kane. Do you see now? You have to stay with me. Kane stared at him. At his earnest expression. His warm grip. His stupidly pretty eyes. And for the first time, Kane felt a dangerous flutter of something he didn't want to name. Rylan, Kane muttered, I swear if staying with you gets me killed, I'm haunting you. Rylan grinned. I'd welcome it. And just like that, somehow Kane knew. His life wasn't going back to normal anytime soon. Kane did not sign up for this. He didn't sign up to be a billionaire magnate. He didn't sign up to dodge killer chandeliers. And he definitely didn't sign up for the ridiculous flutter in his chest every time Rylan looked at him like he was the sun dipped in chocolate. But apparently the universe had decided Kane's life needed flavor, because the next morning he woke up in Rylan's guest room. To be clear, Kane had not slept in Rylan's bed. The guest room was just larger than his entire apartment and smelled like wealth, eucalyptus, and faintly unrequited yearning. He stumbled into the hallway, hair a mess, eyes half open, only to nearly collide with Rylan coming out of the kitchen carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Rylan froze. Kane froze. The coffee steamed romantically between them like a K-drama moment sponsored by caffeine. You're awake, Rylan said softly, his voice warm and sleepy. Technically, Kane grumbled. My soul is still buffering. Rylan smiled, and God help Kane, he felt it in his knees. Rylan insisted they sit on the terrace to drink their coffee. Kane reluctantly agreed, mostly because Rylan's terrace looked like a Pinterest board mated with a fairy tale garden. So, Kane said, sipping carefully, are you going to tell me why your life keeps trying to kill you? Rylan's smile dimmed. He stared at the city skyline as if the glass buildings held all the answers. It started when I turned 26, he said quietly. The age my father said he'd officially hand me a share of the company. Nearly a quarter of the entire empire. Kane choked on his coffee. A quarter? Of billions? Rylan nodded. Kane eyed him. Do you have any cousins who are criminals? Siblings with questionable morals? Evil uncles? Rylan sighed. All of the above. Wonderful. Kane was trapped in a live-action soap opera. But still, Kane said, this doesn't explain why I have to be your emotional support bodyguard. Lucky charm, Rylan corrected gently. And because, whenever you're around, the danger somehow misses. I don't understand it, but I believe it. Kane opened his mouth to argue, because luck wasn't real, statistically he should have died twice already, and because Rylan's faith in him made his heart squeeze in a way he strongly disapproved of. But right then Rylan reached out and brushed a crumb off Kane's cheek. A crumb. A crumb. Kane froze. Rylan froze. The crumb probably evaporated from sheer tension. Rylan's voice dipped low. See? Even breakfast turns magical around you. Okay, first of all, Kane said flustered, that was a croissant crumb. Nothing magical about being assaulted by pastry. But his voice cracked, betraying him. Rylan's smile softened, gaze lingering a moment too long. Kane stood up so fast his chair screeched. We should go. You have your billionaire things to do. Places to be. People to disappoint. Okay, Rylan said, though he looked like he wanted to say something else entirely. They headed to a formal event, a shareholders' luncheon full of men with expensive watches and colder hearts. Kane stuck close to Rylan partly because he promised, partly because he didn't want Rylan to die on his watch, and partly because, well, he liked being close. Unfortunately, the universe once again saw Kane feeling anything positive and said nope. Because halfway through the event, a waiter accidentally dropped a full tray of knives. Seriously, knives, directly behind Rylan. They clattered against the marble floor like weapons in an action movie. Kane didn't even blink. He yanked Rylan backward so fast the poor air nearly crashed into his chest. Rylan's body collided with his, warm and solid. Kane's hands were gripping Rylan's waist. Everyone stared. Time slowed. Rylan's breath ghosted over Kane's neck. Kane? Rylan whispered, voice trembling. I swear to God, Kane whispered back, if one more household object tries to murder you, I'm wrapping you in bubble wrap. Rylan's face softened, eyes full of something dangerously close to love. You saved me. Again. That wasn't saving, Kane muttered, refusing to let go. That was reacting to physics. But Rylan heard the panic in Kane's voice, the fear that something could have gone wrong. And he leaned closer. Too close. Kane, he murmured, you care. I don't, Kane lied. Poorly. Rylan's hand slid up, resting gently on Kane's arm. Okay. I don't believe in luck anymore. Kane blinked. Good. Because it's nonsense. I believe in you. Oh no. Oh no no no. Kane's heart wasn't made for this brand of softness. It was made for sarcasm and bad financial decisions. He opened his mouth to say something, anything, but Rylan moved first. He leaned in. Their faces inches apart. Breasts tangled. The world holding itself still like it was waiting for the kiss. Kane's pulse thundered. Rylan's lips brushed, barely brushed, against Kane's. And then, ahem. A bodyguard cleared his throat so loudly the windows shook. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Mr. Rylan, the guard said stiffly. We need to talk. We found new information. Rylan's expression shifted. Fear, frustration, and something raw. Kane, he whispered, stay with me. Please. And just like that, Kane knew. He was already in too deep. Not just in Rylan's mess, but in Rylan himself. Kane didn't know what he expected when the bodyguard said they'd found new information. Maybe another chandelier conspiracy. Maybe a toaster rebellion. Maybe Rylan accidentally angering a cult of extremely aggressive accountants. What he did not expect was this. They were hunting the wrong enemy. Rylan's uncle, the dramatic, mustache-twirling type Kane had only seen in telenovelas, wasn't the mastermind. The real culprit was someone closer. Too close. Rylan's cousin Darren. The same cousin who had smiled too wide at the luncheon. The same one who had said, wow, Rylan, you look healthy for someone under so much stress. The cousin with the emotional subtlety of a raccoon in a trash can. Darren wanted the inheritance. And if Rylan conveniently had an accident, well, the company's shares would slide neatly into Darren's greedy hands. Kane processed this information the only way his exhausted, emotionally confused brain could manage. So your cousin tried to kill you with chandeliers, cars, and cutlery? Kane said. What is he? A homicidal Home Depot. Rylan didn't laugh. That scared Kane more than anything. Kane, Rylan said quietly, please stay behind me. This could be dangerous. Nope, Kane said immediately. I refuse. I've already risked my life 3 times. I'm emotionally invested. I'm not sitting in some corner like a decorative houseplant. Rylan blinked, surprised. You're invested? Kane opened his mouth, ready to deny. But the look on Rylan's face, fragile and hopeful and terrified, made something snap inside him. Yeah, Kane muttered. I am. Rylan's eyes softened like melting ice. Kane. Before the heir could say more, chaos broke loose. Darren arrived at the penthouse with the confidence of someone who'd never been punched in the face, but desperately deserved to be. His fake polished smile dropped the moment he saw Kane standing beside Rylan. What is he doing here? Darren spat. Kane crossed his arms. Protecting your cousin from your villain origin story. Darren's eye twitched. You think I fear you? You. That coffee boy? Oh no, Kane said with a sweet smile. You fear gravity, sharp objects, and bad luck. Darren scoffed. Until Rylan's bodyguard stepped forward with a USB drive full of evidence. Financial trails. Email threats. Purchase receipts for suspicious items like industrial-strength wire cutters and how to stage an accident for idiots. Darren's face went pale. This is ridiculous, he shouted. You think I would harm my own cousin? Yes, Kane and Rylan said in perfect unison. A beat. Kane pointed at Darren. Your villain aura is blinding, dude. The bodyguards grabbed Darren, and in the middle of his theatrical screaming, I did it for the family, for the company, for respect. They escorted him out. Finally. Silence. Rylan inhaled shakily. Kane exhaled shakily. Then Rylan turned to Kane, and something shifted in the air. No danger. No chaos. Just them. I'm safe now, Rylan whispered. Because of you. Kane rolled his eyes. Technically because of your bodyguards and the USB. No, Rylan stepped closer. Because you stayed. Because you didn't run. Because you cared. Kane's chest tightened. Rylan's voice dropped to a trembling softness. I told myself you were just a lucky charm. That I only needed you for protection. But that was a lie. Kane swallowed hard. I don't need you as a charm, Rylan continued. I need you because, Kane, you make me feel alive. Safe. Happy. You make me feel like I'm not alone in a world where everyone wants something from me. He took Kane's hands gently, like they were something precious. Okay. I choose you. Not luck. Not superstition. You. Kane didn't breathe for a full 3 seconds. Then, well damn, he whispered. If you're going to say things like that, at least warn me. I almost ascended. Rylan laughed, a real bright laugh that made Kane's stomach do gymnastic flips. I mean it, Rylan whispered. Kane looked up into those earnest blue eyes and felt the last bit of resistance crumble. I know, he said softly. And I choose you too. Even if your life is a death trap. Rylan's breath caught. Kane. And even if you bring drama like it's your side hustle, Kane added. Rylan stepped closer. Kane. And even if you... Please, Rylan said, voice shaking with affection. Let me kiss you. Kane, shut up. Rylan leaned in slowly, giving Kane every chance to pull away. Kane didn't. Their lips met, soft, warm, hesitant. Then deeper, sweeter, realer. Kane felt like his soul had been unplugged and reconnected with better Wi-Fi. When they finally pulled apart, Kane whispered, So, does this mean I get a raise? Rylan laughed breathlessly and pulled him close again. You can have anything you want. Cool, Kane said. I want chicken. A whole one. Billionaire-sized. Rylan kissed him again. Later, with Darren in custody, the inheritance safe, and Rylan alive and unmurdered, they stood together on the terrace watching the sunset. Rylan laced their fingers. Kane, you aren't my lucky charm. Kane raised an eyebrow. Wow. Rude. You're my partner, Rylan corrected gently. My choice. Kane felt his heart do a somersault. Well, he murmured, leaning against Rylan's shoulder, just don't expect me to wear matching outfits. Rylan smiled. Anything else? Yeah, Kane said softly. Just stay alive. Rylan kissed his forehead. With you? Always. And for the first time, Kane believed it.